Good evening, everybody. I am Minister Marcus, and welcome to the Maximize Your Life Bible Study. It's great to see you guys on YouTube. It's great to see you guys on Instagram, and it's great to see you guys on Facebook. I'm not going to be on long tonight. I just got three things to help you along your spiritual journey, and then I'm going offline. If you don't catch me tonight, you can always go to the YouTube channel, and I upload them. I'm going to be uploading it tonight. So it should be on there maybe in about an hour, 2 hours. For sure tomorrow, if you missed it tonight or share it with somebody tomorrow, I will be posting it in the group on Facebook, so you'll be able to see it there on Facebook, and it is also on Instagram. So with that tonight, for those of you that did watch last week, we are going to be in Exodus. We're taking one book of the Bible every month, and I don't plan to be on long. As I said, I got my eyes on the time. So we in Exodus. We're going to chapter 12, verse 47 through 51. It is very unfamiliar. I love doing the unfamiliar portions. How you doing? It's good to see you. Good evening. Um, all right, so we in Exodus chapter 12, verse 47 through 51. And I'm just going to pull out three things tonight, and then I'm going offline. All right, and it says, all the congregation of Israel shall keep it, and when a stranger shall sojourn with you and will keep the Passover, in other words, celebrate the Passover to the Lord, let all his males be circumcised, and then let him come near and celebrate or keep it. And he shall be as one that is born in the land, for no uncircumcised person shall eat thereof. He's talking about celebrating the Passover. One law shall be to him that is homeborn, and unto the stranger that sojourns among you. Thus did all the children of Israel as the Lord commanded Moses and Aaron, so they did. And it came to pass that the selfsame day that the Lord did bring the children of Israel out of the land of Egypt by their armies. All right, and once again, we are in Exodus. For those of you that are not familiar with Exodus, Exodus is the book of the Bible that God delivers the nation of Israel from Egyptian slavery. All right, and so last week, what we started off talking about as far as Exodus, we talked about how Exodus is a book of transition, and to flow along with that, we're not going to deal with that, but we will talk about what the word Exodus means. And when taken together, the word Exodus means the road out of, the road out of, and is perfect for the transition of the book. It is the road that Israel took out of slavery. And so the first thing I want to point out or highlight, we're talking about the book of Exodus. The word means the road out of. It basically talks about the road to deliverance. And when I see the road, it makes me think of a journey or a journey to be traveled. All right. And so the first thing I want to point out tonight is that walking with God is a journey. Walking with God is a journey. And as Exodus states, the road out of, if you look that up in Hebrew, it is the road out of, or Greek, uh, um, is the road out of. And so the first thing I want to pull out is that walking with God is a journey. Walking with God is a journey. In order for the nation of Israel to come out of Egypt, they had to go on a journey. And so I want to point out that walking with God is a journey. And if I could point anything out from that, is that change will not happen overnight. It is a journey. And I try to stress this to especially new Christians or new converts, that walking with God is a process. And that's that we go. I don't want to go too fast, but walking with God takes place. It doesn't always happen suddenly, or God doesn't always move in your life by a miracle. And I always say this, that when I first became a Christian, there were some things that I stopped doing immediately, but then there were some things that God kind of walked me out of as I walked with Him, as I learned Him, as I read the Bible. Different things kind of dropped off as I went the journey. And so I want to stress that, right, that our walk with God is a journey. So don't criticize yourself when things don't happen as quickly as you expect them to, or as you want them to, or if you're still struggling or battling with some things. Why? Because this walk with God is a journey. Don't let nobody tell you that you're going to turn perfect just because you come into a relationship with God. Don't let nobody make you feel bad because you're not perfect and you say you have a relationship with God, because the walk with God is a journey. And change does not happen overnight. Transition does not happen overnight. God does not always do a suddenly or a miracle, but sometimes He will take you on a journey to the next chapter in your life. And I want to stress that, because what Israel does is Israel goes from one place in their lives to another place in their lives, and it doesn't happen by way of an immediate miracle. And sometimes God will take you on a journey. And I don't want you to get discouraged when you see that things don't happen quickly. Don't get frustrated when things don't happen or come together immediately. But I want you to consider, and this is what I want you to say, my walk with God is a journey, just like it is with a play. I don't know if you've ever been to a play, but what happens in a play is they set the scene for the first scene. And when the first scene is done, they close the curtain. And then they got to work behind the scenes before they open up the next curtain. And so this is what I'm telling you. Your walk with God is a journey. So you can't get frustrated when things don't happen to come together immediately. But just like a play, God is setting things up behind the curtain for the next scene of your life, so that when the curtains open, right, everything will be in place. I've been to a couple of plays, right? And the curtain guy wasn't doing his job, because what he did, he opened the curtain too early, and some of the props weren't in place. Some of the people weren't in place. And I want you to understand this, is that when things don't come together quickly in your life, you cannot get so frustrated to the point where you start to lose hope or trust in God, because God sometimes takes time or needs time to set things up for the next scene of your life. And I want to stress that because your walk with God is a journey, it takes time for transition to happen. It takes time for change to happen. And I stress this because sometimes we get to places where people tell us that God will always do a miracle, right? Or God will always make some things happen immediately. But in my walk with God, I always say, I always say this, that God, that He don't move like, I'm expecting Him to move all the time. But it takes Him time to set some things up. Like when you read about David, it takes some time. When you read about Moses here in Exodus, it takes some time for God to set it up for Moses to be able to deliver the children. And so God will take you on a journey. And I don't want you to get discouraged because it don't happen immediately. It's not going to happen immediately. And God don't always work a miracle. Sometimes, and this is what the text says, right? The steps of a good man are ordered by God. And sometimes God wants you to put your feet on the path. He takes you the journey because He wants you to learn some things along the way. I'm really not trying to stay here too long, but I really want you to understand that your walk with God is a journey. And if He's taking you the long way, He's taking you the long way for a reason. There are things that you learn throughout the journey that a miracle cannot teach you, right? There are things that you learn throughout the journey that a miracle could not teach you. I had to learn the love of God. So I didn't quit smoking immediately. He had to love me through that. I want you to understand that. I want y'all to hear me, that your walk with God is a journey. Everything didn't drop off immediately, but some things I had to walk out of. He had to teach me to trust Him. He had to teach me His patterns, right? He took me the journey so that I could learn some different things, so I can mature a little bit. And I don't know if that's for somebody in here, that your walk with God is a journey. And sometimes He takes you the journey because He wants to teach you some things, that He wants to train you in some areas, right? I was very immature, even though my heart loved God. So He had to take me the journey so I could learn some things about life, so I could process some of the stuff out of my head, right, that I thought really mattered, that didn't really matter. And so God had to take me the journey. A miracle wouldn't have shown me that, but the journey helped me to mature. The journey helped me to improve my mindset. The journey allowed me time to grow. I want you you to hear me that you cannot get frustrated when things don't come together or happen quickly. You got to give God time to move in your life. Learn some things about me. I had to learn some things about me. The journey taught me, right, that there were some things about me that I needed to get better at. I was stronger than I realized that I was, right? And so the journey taught me. All right. And so the first thing I want you to understand tonight is that your walk with God is a journey. Right, your walk with God is a journey. All right, and so we rolling into number 2. The Passover is what they celebrating, and the Passover is not the only thing that happened. Look, and this is a stretch. The Passover is not the only thing that happened to make Pharaoh freedom, but it was the final thing. And I believe that that's significant because it shows that their freedom didn't happen all at once, but it happened through a process. All right. It happened through a process. And we go on to number 2. God's plan is going to work in your life through a process. And here's number 2. You need to be patient. I want you to hear me when I say that. You need to be patient. My mama is watching tonight, and she can tell you that Marcus was the most impatient young man that you will ever meet. If you don't move when I think you ought to move, I'm on to something else. If you don't speak when I think you should speak, I'm on to something else. If you don't do what I need you to do when I want you to do it, come on. And I want you to understand that God, look, and I always say it like this, that God does not work like a microwave. He works like a crock pot. It's going to happen in processes. So you need to be patient. It's going to happen, but it's going to happen through processes. And if you're not patient, you will mess it up. So number 2, you need to be patient. So number 2, come on, say, God, help me to be more patient. God, help me to be more patient. Help me to be more. And that patience is not the act of waiting. Patience is the attitude while you're waiting. I want to stress that. Patience is not the act of waiting. Patience is the attitude while waiting. If you know me, my mom is watching tonight. If we go somewhere to eat, it's not the wait there, but my attitude switches while I'm waiting. I'm working on it. Come on, say, God, help me to be patient. Number 2, don't rush it. Come on. You will forfeit your blessing if you rush it. You will destroy your blessing if you rush it. You will destroy and mess up everything that God is trying to put in place if you can't wait for it. And so I want you to say this, say, God, help me to be patient. Come on, I can't rush it. I can't rush it. It looks right, but I can't rush it. It feels right, but I can't rush it. It smells right. Come on, but I can't rush it. It might feel right, but it's not time yet. Until you get the confirmation from God, don't rush it. Number 2, you gotta be patient. Come on, say, I gotta be patient. God, help me to be patient. I like to cook. One of the things I learned about cooking is that it's not only the temperature that matter, but it's come on, you got it, timing. And look, and if you're a cooker like me, I like to cook all kind of stuff. There are some foods that can't be rushed if you want it to come out right. And I just want to put that on your mind. Come on, say, God, help me to be patient. Just like baking a cake. If you rush it, the finished product won't be what it could have been had you taken your time. Come on, just say, God, help me to be patient. I want to stress this to you tonight, that God works in processes. And if you're not patient, you will miss the purpose. You will miss the prize. You will miss the promise if you can't wait for it. This is what the Bible says. You have need of patience after you've done the will of God, after you've done the right thing, after you said the right thing, after you didn't slap nobody, you still need patience. I want to stress this. Just like baking the cake, you can't rush it. I need to tell some. I don't know who that's for. Look, I don't want to go over my time, but I want you to understand. You cannot rush the plan of God. If you rush it, it's not going to turn out right. Have you ever baked a cake and tried to rush it through? Right? You put the temperature too high because you wanted to cook a little bit faster. Anybody that know anything about baking know that it's not just the temperature that matter, but it's the timing. Come on, say, God, help me to be patient. I want you to hear me when I say this. Don't be afraid to wait. Why? Because what God has for you is for you. Look, most people, they think, right, because if I wait for it, if I don't take advantage of it, right, it's not gonna happen right now. It's not gonna be mine. But I want you to get this. I want you to hear me when I say this. Don't be afraid to wait, because what God had for you is for you, and it don't belong to nobody else. You don't have to rush it to get it. You don't have to force it to get it. But if it's for you, God is gonna make sure you get it. Come on, say, God, give me a little bit more patience. I can't rush it. I can't rush it. Don't rush it. Don't rush it. All right. So that's number 2, and I'm on to number 3, and I'm almost done. All right. And so we come to Exodus chapter 12, verse 48. And here's what's going on, is that God is telling them the rules and regulations about celebrating the Passover. And so when they left, they didn't just leave by themselves. They had servants with them. There were foreigners with them, right? And so God is saying to them, if they don't belong to the community of Israel, they cannot celebrate. But this is what he says. If they want to celebrate, they got to circumcise themselves in order to celebrate. They have to circumcise themselves. I want you to get this. They have to circumcise themselves in order to celebrate. And here's, let me marketize that. If you want to participate in the celebration, you have to participate in the sacrifice. I'm going to say that again. If you want to participate in the celebration, you got to participate in the sacrifice. And look, let me just marketize this right quick, right? Let me just put this in while we on number 3. Don't allow people to celebrate you on your highs who were not willing to sacrifice with you during your lows. I'm gonna say that one more time, and then I gotta move because we're on number 3. Don't allow people to celebrate with you on your highs who weren't willing to sacrifice with you on your lows. And I think that's a lot of our, we think we good people because everybody, no. God says, look, if they not willing to circumcise themselves, don't let them celebrate. And I think that's a word for somebody tonight that may be watching, or that may tune on at some time. Celebration comes with sacrifice. That's number 3. Celebration comes with sacrifice. I want you to hear me. I don't think enough people associate sacrifice with celebration. And here's a marketize again right there. In order to get something, it's gonna cost something. In order to get something, my mama told me, my daddy told me, almost all the grown people that had been through something, they told me, they said, Marcus, if it's worth getting, it's gonna cost you something. Number 3, celebration comes with sacrifice. All right, I'm gonna share a story with you, and then I'm getting offline. All right. Okay, so I went to a 50th marriage anniversary, right? And so if you know me, I'm that whole relationship love thing. I'm working on God. He's working on my heart with that. And so it's 50 years we going to celebrate, and I'm like, man, and I'm talking to the man, and we kind of cool. He an older gentleman. I'm like, man, man, congrats on your 50 years. It's amazing. People don't have this type of love no more. And he was like, man, that's cool. And so I'm asking him, because the man want to know, how in the world do you stay married to a person for 50 years, right? And so I'm like, you know what? Don't worry about it. I'm just happy that y'all here. So he said, he put me to the side. He said, what did it take for you to get here? I'm like, what you mean? And he like, what did you do? Like, which way did you take to get here? What freeway? And I was like, I got in my car, I hopped on the freeway, and it was a little bit of traffic. It kind of held me up. So that's why I was like 10 minutes late, but I'm still here. I'm still celebrating. And this is what he said. He said, what it took for you to get here, that 40 minutes, we've been traveling for 40 years. And so, in other words, what he was trying to get me to understand, how we made it to the 50 years is because it was some sacrificing. But it took us more to get here than it took you. It took you 40 minutes to get here, but it took us 50 years. And this is what he said. What y'all feel for us don't compare to what we feel for each other, because come on, I want you to hear me when I say this. He told me we had to sacrifice to get here. And it made me realize this number 3 right here. I want you to hear me, that every celebration comes with sacrifice. And he said, I realized that for every public celebration, there was a private sacrifice. For every public celebration, there was some private. And I think the reason why we don't have the celebration sacrifice together is because everybody wants to celebrate, but nobody wants to sacrifice. Could it be possible that the reason you haven't been able to celebrate your bank account is because you haven't made the sacrifice? Come on, I want somebody to hear me. You ain't been able to celebrate your credit because you are I really wish I could just, say it how I felt. I mean, I'm at home. Y'all y'all at home too, so we might as well just talk, right? I wonder, is there anybody that's watching tonight, right, that can't celebrate because you haven't put in enough, come on, sacrifice. This man had been married 50 years, and he said to me, look, Marcus, you know what, you thinking you're going to get to 50 years without making some sacrifice, brother, you out of your mind. And I needed to hear that, right? And I don't know who needs to hear that tonight, but with every celebration, there is some sacrifice. You are not going to get to the celebration without having some sacrifice. And I want you to hear me when I say this. The celebration hit a little bit different when you had to sacrifice for it. The celebration hit a little bit different when you had to sacrifice for it. And some of us want to celebrate without sacrificing. Some of us want to celebrate having a 50-year marriage without sacrificing that time, that energy, that effort. Some of us want to celebrate having grown kids that are successful without sacrificing that time, that energy, that effort. You're not going to get to the celebration if you don't take time for the sacrifices. So when I leave you tonight, when I say number 3, are you willing to sacrifice in order to celebrate? Are you willing to sacrifice in order to celebrate? Are you willing to sacrifice your time? Right? Are you willing to, come on, look, for those of you in a relationship, are you willing to sacrifice winning an argument? You know what? Some of us, we sacrifice the relationship to win the argument. But here's my question. Are you willing to sacrifice winning the argument so you can celebrate your relationship? See, we got it backwards. Sometimes we sacrifice the wrong things in order to celebrate the wrong things. But here's what I'm asking you tonight. Are you willing to make the sacrifice so that you can celebrate? He said, don't let them celebrate unless they circumcise themselves. If you're not willing to sacrifice, come on, you're not ready to celebrate. So with that, guys, I'm at 20 minutes. That's all I got for you tonight. I hope you can go back. If it blessed you, let it bless somebody else. Thank you for tuning in to the Maximize Your Life Bible study. And I am out. I will see y'all right back here next week. If you look in the comments, you can touch the link to get to our website and see all the many things that we do. We are still ministering to people, the homeless people. We still doing the care packages. So, man, if you want to be a part of that, if you want to just take something to pass out to people, hit the website up. There's plenty of ways for you to be a blessing. So with that, guys, I am out. It's great to see y'all once again. Thank y'all, my TGM family on Facebook, on Instagram, and on YouTube. I love y'all, and I'll see y'all next week.